A night at Balaidos for the fans and for the squad. Celta roll against Jacobo Arrasate's men. Mallorca just did not have it tonight. Celta did, although it took them a while to get there. A ton of changes for both sides. In fact, Celta, who only made 4 changes from their last league appearance, 3 of those 4 came at the top of the formation. Svedberg, Iglesias, and Fer Lopez, who made his LaLiga debut tonight, all started up front. No Iago Aspas in the starting 11. And for Mallorca, a different occasion. 8 changes after their loss against Barça on Tuesday. There were chances in the first half for both sides, but very few to speak of. This was one of them. Javi Yabres, one of the many changes Mallorca made, puts it in for Kyle Larin and forces a save out of Vicente Guaita, who, when the game was level at 0-0, made a couple of very important saves to keep his team right where they needed to be. He was important for Celta tonight. Balaidos always ready to raise their team up, even when Iago Aspas is on the bench, as they continue to churn and look for their go-ahead goal. Oscar Mingueza does what he's been doing all season, creating chaos down the right-hand side. This one he put into a dangerous area, but Dominic Grief was able to cover it up. Mingueza, one of 3 La Masia players to start laterally today, along with Marcos Alonso for Celta and Mateu Morey. This was the chance and the goal for Celta. They broke through just over half an hour in, and it was Hugo Alvarez who delivered the go-ahead goal. A player who Claudio Giraldez has relied on this season, coming from the academy. A happy Aspas sitting on the bench, knowing that this team is well taken care of, even in his absence. 3rd of the season for Alvarez, while Ilaix Moriba will technically get his first assist of the year. It was really well taken, and after the game, Alvarez described it as picking the ball up in an area where he was comfortable and deciding that he, at the very least, had to get the ball on target. Now, technically speaking, he didn't do that. Hit the post, but he hit the right part of the post, and it caromed right back in, nestled into the net to give Celta the lead in the first half. A lead that you have to say they deserved. They were proactive and more aggressive, more opportunistic in the first half. Mallorca, when they got to the final third, they were unable to make it count, really, with one exception, and this was it. Right here, Antonio Raillo gets his head to the ball. Guaita is forced into a big save. Had to dive off to his left at a semi-comfortable height, but still a save that has to be made, and then a rebound that he can't give up either. He pushes it aside. Moriba helps it away. And then this one, Kyle Larin immediately afterwards. His second header of the first half that Guaita denies. This kept it at 1-0. Just a little glancing header. Larin was one of the players substituted from the game against Barça. And then we had a moment as well. This was another chance for Larin, easier save for Guaita. Fer Lopez hurt himself in his La Liga debut, and that forced a change. Lopez, who went out with an ankle injury, it appeared, seemed to roll it, push it in the wrong direction, had to come off, and Aspas just before halftime trotted on. He got about 5 minutes in the first half to make an impact, but that would also mean that we get a full 45 of him in the second half. A frustrated Lopez, who scored twice in the Copa on Tuesday. Aspas had a chance right before halftime to make it 2-0. This one curled just wide, and as we began the second half, Mallorca continued to make their effort with very little success. Just didn't seem like they had it tonight. The changes were a bit too much. And trying to break through that final third was more unkind to them than anything else. This one was Jabres who had a chance to cut it back for Van der Heyden, and Laren with his third headed attempt of the night. This was the only one that he couldn't put on target. Popped this one up and put it over the bar, unable to keep it down. Alvarez again would work in space, and he wasn't able to wrap this one around his right boot, but boy, you see the quality in his ability to take on defenders. This is a one-on-one that really turns into a one-on-two, and he just glides by everybody. Unable to take his second of the night, though. Give Celta credit, they continued to push, trying to find that second goal, that insurance. Javi Rodriguez laid it off. Mingueza tried to cut it back over the top, and Borja Iglesias, it was not his finest night tonight. This was his best chance to score, but he had trouble all throughout the evening in holding play up as well. He wasn't able to get the header on target. This time, Fran Beltran's follow-up sailed over the bar as well. A frustrating night for a lot of players, including Vedat Murici, who came on in the second half along with Johan Mojica to try and change the game. And perhaps something will be made after this game of the substitution choices by Arrasate. Not so much in the players that he chose, but the timing of those substitutions. It seemed like they needed a change at halftime. He opted not to do that. And then the first two subs that came on, Murici and Mojica, certainly made sense. At the same time, Iglesias and Svidberg came out. Alfon and Tassos Dubikas replaced them. This was at a time when the game was still very much up for grabs. Off of a throw-in, it was Alvarez again who tried to create a problem, and in fact Aspas's ingenuity set up Alfon for his first touch of the night. Could have been one of the assists of the season from Aspas. He always just manages to do something crazy with his feet that you don't expect. It's a chance from Aspas, who was looking for something spectacular off of a turnover. Murici thought he was fouled in the process. Eventually we would get to a moment in this game which eliminated all doubt. It was this ball over the top. Now watch the defender. Raillo slaps it with his hand first, and while Celta were able to continue the play, eventually play came to a halt, and when we got to VAR we realized, yeah, this was an obvious goal-scoring opportunity, if not for the handball. You can't do that there. Watch here, the hand comes in first. It's an obvious play on the ball with Raillo's hand, and it would lead to a fairly lengthy review that I think was mostly about whether or not this was an obvious goal-scoring chance rather than whether or not it was actually a handball. But eventually Ricardo de Burgos Bengoechea said, yeah, this is without a doubt a red card. Raillo sent off. And for the final 15 minutes, Mallorca played with 10 men, and that was a problem. The ensuing free kick from that handball was for Mingueza. Means that Raillo will also miss next weekend's game against Girona. And then finally, to seal the deal, of course, who was going to score? You knew it was going to be Iago Aspas. Of course it was. 6th of the season for Aspas. The signature celebration where he points directly to the Celta crest. And that was all Celta needed on this night. This was the sealer, and he only needed one touch on the rebound to make it happen. Reef was offsided by a grounded Duvikas, unable to keep it out. Celta go home with all 3 points. Part of those substitutions we were talking about just before the handball, Mallorca were ready to make subs. They had Takuma Asano and Abdon Prats ready to go. Then they didn't make a sub, then the red card came, then they waited some more to make the changes. By the time it was 2-0, this game was already done and dusted. It was in the books, and no substitution was going to change the result of this game. You can hardly say that there was a chance at the end for Mallorca. Frustration set in, and it's ultimately 2 losses in a single week for Mallorca. Meanwhile, Celta are back on track after their loss last weekend against Espanyol. 3 more points will put them in towards the top 10. They had a couple of chances late to make it 3-0, nothing doing in the end. The final whistle was all that was left, and Celta get the victory at home. Giraldez beats Arrasate. Final score, Celta 2, Mallorca 0.